Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV and welcome to episode 5 of the Chelsea Fan TV podcast. If you haven't checked out any of the previous episodes, head over to the channel and check them out. And before we get into today's episode, please smash the likes on the video and please subscribe to the channel as well. We have passed the 160k mark, but we need to keep going. So if you're watching this now, you're not subscribed, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Lewis, San Siro, what a night it was for Chelsea. 2-0 win there. Went probably easier than any Chelsea fans expected. Well, I guess both games against Milan, a double header, 5-0 over both games. I don't think any of us expected that. You were there, mate. What was it like as an occasion? Like going there, obviously first time, one of the best stadiums to visit in world football, I'd imagine. Great experience, great away end.
Oh yeah. Going to the ground, there's a certain aura behind it, and I haven't felt that in any other European away I've been to, even the likes of Barcelona. San Siro, best atmosphere I've ever heard, personally. That they do not play there, and thank God they didn't score either, because they would have only just got louder and even more motivated. I'm really happy with how Chelsea played, because they were able to quieten it down for as much as they could. Like, they were still very loud in the first half, but towards the second half, their voices seemed to evaporate a bit more. We started to dominate a bit more, and in terms of a performance, couldn't have really asked for much more. Couldn't have. And yeah, the red card did kind of kill the game off, but that only falls to our advantage. It was a red card, regardless of what anyone wants to say about if it morally deserves to be or if it's a bit harsh. It's a red. If the referee had a stinker of a performance, but he got that one right, so we can't really say anything on it. First goal, only seemed to put the ball in. Only seemed to give us more confidence and push Milan back even more. And they weren't really going to do anything when they were down to 10 men. And you know what Chelsea are like after we score our first goal. We're unstoppable by that point. Just kept dominating possession. Jorginho and Kovacic had a brilliant performance against that midfield. Mason Mount, unbelievable. Yeah. I've spent so long saying I'm waiting for this guy to start improving in terms of his creativity from open play. And the last 2 games, he's got me 3 open play assists and the penalty. Could not ask for anything more from him. Potter's completely revitalizing him. Aubameyang, 3 goals in 3. All he needs is a clear-cut chance, and he's putting the ball in the back of the net. Couldn't have asked for anything else. Brilliant performance all round. Leave with another clean sheet, so there's more confidence building for our defense and Kepa as well. Brilliant performance. Really happy.
Yeah, I mean, it's 3 clean sheets on the spin now, so the defense is definitely tightening up a little bit, kind of the sort of the defensive record that you kind of expect from Chelsea that we've kind of built ourselves on over Thomas Tuchel's reign at the start, and now we're getting that back. You know, Chelsea, we know we're not going to be a team that outscores the opponents like a Man City or a Liverpool, where it doesn't matter if they let 2 or 3 in because they're going to score 4 or 5. We're not like that, so we've got to keep things tight at the back and get a goal or 2, because that's pretty much the maximum really we're going to get. So we've got to play to our strengths. It's good to see that the defense is tightening up. Thought Chalobah had a good game again. Koulibaly probably had his best game in a Chelsea shirt. And in the midfield as well, he's coming for a bit of stick. And I've got to say, I was going to reserve judgment until after the game. I was disappointed that Ruben didn't start, but Jorginho come in at his best game by this season by a mile. I think his pass success rate was about 98%. He won the ball back the most times out of any player on the pitch. And it was kind of one of them vintage Jorginho performances. And you can see why Potter picked him. You know, experience in the Champions League, knows the San Siro well, knows Milan well from his time playing in Serie A with Napoli. I thought he had a really good game. I don't think I got any complaints about the selection. And yeah, I guess the only downer on it was the fact that Reece James looked like he's picked up an injury to his knee. Obviously, like the early prognosis coming out today is that it's not too bad. There's no official kind of wording on it from the club yet, but kind of saying that Reece James hopefully could be back for the Man United game. So he would only miss Villa on the weekend and then Brentford next Tuesday or Wednesday. And he could be back for the United game on the 22nd of October. That's good news. I mean, mate, when you saw him go down, it's just worst case scenario, in it, because he's the one guy because he's so important to us, and it's the one area of this pitch where we don't really have any kind of quality in terms of backup. Yes, Ruben can do a job there, but you wouldn't want Ruben playing there kind of week in, week out for a prolonged period of games. You know, we've got Chilwell and Cucurella one side, but then James and not really anyone else on the other side. It does need to be addressed. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on the Reece James injury? Because he might only miss a few games, but it's still going to be a bit problematic.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth with that one. If we lose Reece James, the one position that I don't think we can just directly replace with anybody. Even if we lost Silva, we could go into a back four. Fafana Koulibaly can do a job for us, and I'd be fine with that. Or even a three with Chalobah, and I'd still be fine with it. We don't have any cover on that right-hand side. A good amount of our creativity comes from there, and we've done such a good job of locking that left-hand side down because of the likes of Reece James. We can't afford to lose him, but that's also why we need to be able to have good enough depth for him. That's something that can be sorted out in future windows and everything, but one of our biggest issues with Reece James over the last 2 to 3 years is that we rely on him so much, we end up overplaying him. And it just forces him onto the injury table more and more. And we can't really afford for him to become that sort of injury-prone player at this age. I'm not saying he is injury-prone. He doesn't get injuries easily, but we play him so much, we force him into the situation. Happened, you could go as far back to 2021. Lampard did the same thing. He got injured, came back too early, and got battered against Arsenal on Boxing Day. Didn't recover for like a good 3 to 4 months. Last season, in and out of injuries. If he had a fit season, he's our player of the season.
Yeah.
Not Silva, not Mount, it would be Reece James. But we relied on him so much for creativity, we forced him into injuries. Brought him back too early, dropped out again. This season, like, it's not happened yet. I'm not predicting it to happen, but save ourselves from going into that position again, and we need to try and find some depth. I know we're looking for the likes of Kyle Walker-Peters and other options potentially as well as wing back depth. I'm sure it's going to be something that we look at in the next 2 windows. I don't know if it's a priority, but it's something that we do need to address soon because we can't just have Reece James as our only solid option there.
Yeah, mate, it's to say it's the one area that's gone along with central midfield that desperately needs investment. But obviously, it's hard to get kind of good quality in that position, and at the same time tell them that basically you're only going to play if Reece isn't fit. It's quite hard to find that balance. But it's at Chelsea, you'll get opportunities. So whoever we bring in, and we do need to bring someone in, we do need some kind of competition, maybe. And I'm not saying that someone's going to displace Reece James, but it might push him on to perform even better than he currently is. But the good news so far is that it doesn't appear to be too serious. He may only miss 2 or 3 games, which, all right, it's not ideal, but it's a lot better than it potentially could have been. But back to the game itself, mate. We touched on Mason Mount. He's coming for a lot of criticism this season from. I mean, I've criticised him personally. A number of Chelsea,
you and me both.
A number of us have been doing it, and it's not because we're picking on him or singling him out. It's because we know what he can do. And it's frustrating when you see him not performing and just kind of dropping disaster class after disaster class, which he was doing at the start of the season. The last 3 games, the corners started to turn. I thought against Milan at Stamford Bridge, he was decent. 2 assists in open play against Wolves at the weekend, did really well. And then last night, he was voted man of the match. Even though he only played a half, but he was running the show, was making things happen. Wins the penalty, gets the assist for Aubameyang, and this was probably his best performance of the season. It's just going to show that despite what people think, he is going to be a key player for us this season. There's no surprise that 3 consecutive managers are always picking him. Lampard always picks him, Tuchel was always picking him, and Potter's always picking him as well. So, he's obviously got something about him that warrants him being picked for Chelsea. I mean, if he can do this on a consistent basis, then we've got a real player on our hands here. Last night was a big moment for him, wasn't it? Because he turned up, and this is a big stage to turn up on because he turned up last year in the Bernabeu as well, and he's turned up on the San Siro and done it on the biggest stage there is.
He does love the big stages, doesn't he? Yeah, I agree with you. I've been one of the first to criticize him this season. Last season, I said he was the best out of a bad bunch in terms of our attack, but it still didn't hide away from his deficiencies. It's just he was so much more capable of still popping up with a goal and an assist that he was still giving me more than anybody else. But his open play creativity was still a very big criticism. And this season, the problem was the performances were dipping, and now there wasn't any G&A either. So it's now a case of what were you really contributing, which is why he was getting a lot of criticism. Since Potter's come in, though, he has looked revitalized. Didn't have the best games against Palace, but Wolves completely turned it around in the middle of the game. Got 2 open play assists. AC Milan absolutely ran the show. And with that in mind, he should definitely be getting more game time as well, because you got to reward performances like that. This is all that anybody's really asked of it. All we want to see is more consistent contributions, not just being there and about the squads, but not really having impact and disappearing in between games. He looks to have much more of an impact. He's actually finding players now, and he's being quick about it as well. In fact, that's the thing about the whole team. The whole team's starting to move the ball a lot faster. And you can see improvements in the likes of players like Mount, players like Pulisic, Kovacic as well. We're all starting to look a lot more fluid as a side. And if Mason Mount can keep that up, then we're going to see the same player from 2021, because that's the first time I saw him in ages. That felt like the old Mason Mount, the one that was like, okay, you might have had a bad game, but I know what this player's about. I know what he can bring me. I know he can come good. All I need to see is more performances like that. But he's been in unbelievable form, and he deserves all the praise that he's getting right now.
Yeah, no, it does. And not asking for it every single week. Of course, it's not possible. You're going to have bad games as a footballer. It happens. But as long as you know you're turning up more weeks than you're not, that's the most important thing. And again, I think he's probably cemented himself as one of the first names on the team sheet. And I think that front three that we saw out against Milan, that probably is right now. That's our first choice front three. That's probably our best front three. And another player that is going from strength to strength and having a big impact is Aubameyang. Third goal in 3 games now. Didn't really do an awful lot last night, but it doesn't matter. All he's on the pitch to do. I don't want him to drop deep, get involved in link up play. Playing, improving his all round game. I don't care about his all round game. Just be in the box, and when the opportunities come, stick the ball away. And that's what he did again last night. It was a great finish to get that second goal. And he looks like he's really enjoying his football. He looks a lot freer. He's fit now, and he looks up for it. I mean, maybe he was the missing piece all along. I don't know, but how impressive have you been with him? Just having someone up there to put the ball in the net. And I know it sounds simple, but we haven't had it for so long.
Because we've lacked we have lacked it for so long. I've been saying it on the videos. I've been saying it on my streams. People had the nerve to turn their noses up at an experienced goal scorer like Aubameyang over the likes of Havertz or Werner up top, because they want to give him another year. Enemies of progress, every single one of them. We have lacked a goal scorer like that for so long. And I know it's only 3 games in. I know there'll be ups and downs, and there'll be those sorts of games where he does miss big chances. It happens to the best of them. But Aubameyang is still a better goal scorer than anybody else.
Yeah.
He's got the same movement that you would get out of Werner and Havertz. He can also make movement, make space for other players as well. Even in possession, everyone's saying he's just a goal scorer and nothing else. He looks a lot better in possession than a lot of people were making him out to be. And I'm not saying he looks like the next Eden Hazard or anything, but he doesn't lose possession. He keeps the attack ticking. There's been times where he should have got an assist as well, like the one for Mason Mount against who was it? Salzburg. Yeah, against Salzburg.
Yeah, it was ruled offside. Yeah.
That one. It just shows what he can bring. And all he needed was that little bit of time to get fit after everything that happened to him with the bank robbery. And he's had 3 games without the mask, and he's bagged 3 goals. And this right here is what, in my opinion, is the difference between whether we would have made top 4 or not.
Yeah,
because last season, we said there was issues with our creativity, there's issues with our finishing. Now, I can't lie, with hindsight, Tuchel was a little bit to blame for that. And I don't harbour any resentment towards him. Like, it's all love for Tuchel. Literally, got him right here. So if anyone's saying we're slandering him, it's not that. But we can call it what it is. We were a lot more safer under Tuchel. We weren't really as progressive, and we didn't take as much risks. With Potter, we're making more risks, and with that comes more chances created.
Yeah.
The problem, like we saw in the Wolves game, for example, is that we still don't really have the clinical finishers until we can open the game up. And a player like Aubameyang, a player like Sterling, that's the difference in those sorts of games. And I still need to see if Potter can help us be able to unlock them more consistently in games. Wolves, we did get let off by poor Jose Sarr positioning for the first goal. But there'll be more opportunities to see if we can do that, like probably Sunday against Villa, for example. But these signings, the likes of Aubameyang, the likes of Sterling, that people wanted to say was Werner 2.0, wasn't going to be able to help the squad at all, hold that. Because they've been our 2 most vital attackers. And they still need to get used to a new system because they're new to the club. And this, to me, it vindicates everything I was saying about the other attackers. Even though I'm starting to see like gradual improvements in the likes of Mount and Pulisic, the problem was the lack of quality there. Because even in limited moments, we were very poor with our finishing, we were very poor with our chance creation, and our decision making wasn't good enough either.
Yeah, I think.
And I'm seeing the vested improvement already.
Yeah, that's the big difference I've noticed is the fact that our decision making in the final third is a lot better already. I'm not saying that's solely down to Graham Potter. I mean, he's played a big part in it, but it's also the players are playing a part in it as well. But time and time again, we've seen so often we get in good positions, decision making terrible in the final third, so bad. And now, like, it looks like I don't know what's happened, but we're making much better decisions in the final third. We're getting a lot more. We're getting a lot more of the ball in the final third. We're making better decisions. We're picking out better passes. We seem to be creating more chances. We're quicker on the ball. We're a lot more enjoyable to watch now than we were. I mean, even just going back a few games, the Southampton game away when we lost 2-1 at St Mary's, that is one of the worst games I've ever watched Chelsea play. It was utter shit. It was awful to watch. And
We were
now you look
lucky
at
not to lose by 4.
and now you look at it and you think the personnel's still pretty much the same. The formation's pretty much the same, but just little subtle changes from the manager are making a big difference. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for what he's done since he's come in because, having never managed in the Champions League before, he's picked up two wins against AC Milan and he's won in the San Siro. So it's not a bad start for Potter. And I think he deserves a lot of credit as well. And, having looked like being in big trouble in this group, we now should comfortably win it. Really, with Salzburg and Zagreb left to play. So yeah, a really good night there. And a tricky away game we've negotiated. We've come through it with pretty much no issues other than Reece James. I mean, you can't really ask for much more. And it's great to be able to talk about Chelsea in a positive way because so much of it has been negative over the last few months, the Tuchel sacking and all that sort of thing. So it's good that we seem to have finally turned the corner. We're winning games and things we seem to be feeling good about things again. But moving away from Milan, just wanted to touch on something that kind of broke last night and then carried on in today. Kylian Mbappe. Obviously, he was going to go to Real Madrid. Yeah. He signed the new 3-year contract. All these promises. He was basically like whatever. He was essentially in charge of the club, really. He was like things saying he had a say in the manager, saying the players, he doesn't want X-player here or whatever it is. Now, 143 days later, apparently he wants out. Promises supposedly that the club made to him have not been kept. He's not happy with being played out wide. He wants to play centrally. Not happy about a striker not being signed. And then Julian Lorenzo is a pretty reliable journalist. ESPN does work all over the place, good connections with PSG and France and whatnot, saying that potentially that Chelsea is a serious contender to sign Mbappe. Obviously, Bowley wants a superstar signing, so kind of like why we were linked with Ronaldo and why we wanted to try and sign him. And we are one of the few clubs that would have the money. Now, for me, Mbappe, obviously, him and Haaland are the next kind of Messi Ronaldo conversation. They're the two next best players in world football coming up to replace replace Messi and Ronaldo, essentially. It's hard to say no if the opportunity were to arise, from my opinion, to say no to someone who is a top 2 or 3 footballer in the world. I know it's massive money. I know, he might bring baggage, throw his toys out the pram, might not be the easiest to manage and whatnot, but I think there's certain opportunities in football that present themselves that you just can't say no to. And even if he only came for 2 or 3 years and he moved on somewhere else, I'd rather have 2 or 3 years with Mbappe and see him in a Chelsea shirt and him winning us stuff than not see him at all. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, I think let's be clear, it's a long way away from happening. But if he is to leave and he might have burnt those bridges with Real Madrid for the time being, not many clubs can afford him. And we'd be at the front. We'd be pretty close to the front of that queue.
I'm in two minds about this because, like, there's one side of me that's like, if Mbappe's interested, he wants to join, pay the money, and just don't say a word because he would be such an unbelievable acquisition for us. Would even fill that superstar spot that Bowley wants without us spending on a 38-year-old. So I think it would be a great option for us in that regard. But what does Potter want is first and foremost for me, because we've been here way too often. And people will say it's silly, like you would dare turn your nose up at Aubameyang, especially after everything I said about Aubameyang. I mean, after Mbappe, straight after everything we said about Aubameyang. I get it. If Potter doesn't want him, though, and also with his issues off the pitch and everything, I don't know, because we have been in this situation before where we have signed players that have come off very, very good years that the manager didn't necessarily ask for. The likes of Lukaku, the likes of Havertz, the likes of Torres, the likes of Shevchenko. None of them have ever really worked out. And I'm not going to say Mbappe wouldn't work out if he's at Chelsea. I wouldn't say Graham Potter wouldn't be able to get the best out of him. But with a player with that attitude, I just think like the manager has to have a vested interest in wanting him. He has to have an interest in being able to put up with that sort of stuff as well, knowing the sort of player he is and the sort of superstar that he is. Because you do have to manage players differently.
Yeah.
They are all different people. So they all react in different ways. They all act in different ways. If Potter doesn't want him, it's a bit of a question mark. If Potter wants him, I don't care. I already know the quality he possesses. Bring him in. It means we know Potter will be able to get the best out of him. I don't have to worry about that. But that would be the only thing holding me back on it. Other than that, like, he's a quality player. That speaks for itself. Can score and make his own goals. Brilliant dribbler. Would be amazing in transitional moments. In those sorts of open games, having a player like Mbappe would be priceless to us. But again, all depends on if the manager wants him. But I also do think, in spite of that, what manager would say no?
Yeah.
What manager would say no? But that's the thing. It's like people have said the same thing about Lukaku, about Havertz as well. You just can't read a manager's mind.
No, you can't. I thought that, as you say, like you wouldn't expect Potter to not want to work with Mbappe, but at the same time, it might not be about not wanting to work with him. It's about whether that signing is right for the project and right for what he's trying to build. Is signing a superstar player necessarily what he's looking to do? I mean, with that, it's great. Of course, it's great for the fans. It's great commercially. It's great for shirt sales and whatnot. But does that sort of thing disrupt the kind of the harmony, the feel-good vibes in the dressing room, and that when a big player comes in, he'd probably be on the most money by quite some distance? Does that create a bit of an atmosphere in the dressing room? These are all things you've got to think about. And as a fan, you don't think about them. You just think, right, it's Mbappe. I want him in a Chelsea shirt. I want to see him on the pitch. But from a manager's perspective, it's not just about the pitch. It's about does it disrupt the dressing room? Is it going to cause issues? Is he going to be a problem? Because you're not just signing a player. You want to sign good characters as well. I don't know Mbappe. I'm not questioning his character, but you've got, these are things that have all got to be thought about. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see him here, but I mean, if it come down to a choice between, say, it had to be Mbappe or Leao, I know it sounds pretty obvious that obviously Mbappe is a much better player than Leao is, but in terms of for Chelsea, it suddenly becomes a little bit more of a more difficult decision than it perhaps should be. I mean, I don't know. As much as I'd love
Would
Mbappe,
we go for both? Yeah, we wouldn't go for both in general, though, would we? Like Mbappe would cost so much.
Yeah,
money.
I mean, you wouldn't think so, but I mean, you can't rule these things out. But I mean, I guess I don't know. Obviously, I'd rather Mbappe than Leao, but I don't know if Leao would perhaps maybe fit Chelsea and the project perhaps a little bit better.
No, as a player, like I think Mbappe is still majorly clear of Leao.
Much
We're
better.
talking about a ceiling, like don't really know what could happen over the next few years. I don't know. Like, both are more transitional players, rely a lot on their pace. I'd say Leao's a bit stronger, but Mbappe would be way more technical. Obviously, like in spite of it, we still go for Mbappe over Leao. I think just maybe from a financial point of view, it probably would be smarter for Leao. I don't know, because with Leao, they'd also want one of Pulisic or Ziyech going the other way. But to be honest, with Mbappe, could give them either of them if they wanted them. If they want one of Pulisic, Ziyech, Havertz, have them. Should have two out of three.
Kante? Oh no, Kante's going to be on a free. We can't offer that.
Yeah. But any two of those three, if they want them in the deal, that would probably lower it for us. Have them. I'd be fine.
Yeah, no, it's going to be exciting. I mean, look, PSG make it so hard for him to leave anyway. They're getting the president, to speak to him about trying to make him stay. It's like, it's mad how much kind of.
I do think as well, these attitude problems also kind of come into it because they literally handed him the keys to the club. Yeah. You make him the boss, and like, he's a player, he's an employee, and you've just turned him into the boss. Like,
he's 23, 24. Like, you can't have that much responsibility at that age. Like, essentially, like,
he's running. He can pick his manager. Yeah, pick his starting lineup. It's ridiculous. He's playing career mode and player career at the same time. It's mad.
It is mad. It's stupid, really. To be fair, I haven't watched him a lot this season, but I don't think he's having as good a start to the season as he has had in previous years. And I don't think it's much of a surprise. He's got all that additional stuff on him, which is just not needed. He just want to play football. But I mean, yeah, look, this is a long way off, but it's definitely something to watch. And to see what happens. But kind of moving away from sort of that sort of dream scenario, Villa up next on the weekend, Sunday afternoon. We've actually got quite a few days rest, considering how packed the fixture schedule is. We've got what? We've got about 4 or 5 days before the Villa game now. So it's quite a nice time to rest and recuperate, get some recovery and get a few sessions on the training pitch. How are you feeling heading into the Villa game? Because we're on a good run. We haven't let a goal in for the last 3 games. We've won the last 4 in a row. Villa are doing really badly under Steven Gerrard. I mean, all things really point to a win, but it's never as simple as that. Villa Park is a tough place to go. I mean, what sort of game are you expecting?
Out of all the games that we've had in October, this should be the easiest and the most straightforward. This Villa side is on terrible form. Their fans have no faith in their manager. Gerrard outtrends after every Aston Villa game. He's facing Chelsea, who will be doing the Gerrard chant for 90 minutes, knowing them, especially because he weren't even at Villa Park last time we went there. We can't make hard work of this. Like, we really can't. Even if we play the rotated side, like, we can't make this difficult. I would be very surprised if we did. I'm having so much more faith in this squad now than I've done in ages. And I've said we could go on a run to at least the Man United game.
Yeah.
And this has to be the most winnable one out of the lot. We should be the ones that are sending Gerrard out packing. It's not even just because it's Gerrard or anything. It's because that squad is in no form. We're in all the form. Like, our only issue is if we don't finish our chances.
Yeah.
And we put pressure on ourselves, kind of like we did against Wolves before we scored. But I see no reason why we shouldn't be in total control of this game. No reason.
Yeah, no, I would agree. There is no reason. We're in form, as you say. Villa are doing terribly. Like, all things point to a Chelsea win, but again, it's just going to come down to, can we create the chances and are we going to stick them away? That's always the question with Chelsea. The last few games we have been doing that. In terms of kind of, we saw 7 changes before the Wolves game. Obviously, we know we've got a few days between Milan and obviously Villa. We play Villa Sunday, but then we play Brentford, I think, on Wednesday. So there's probably going to be more changes for the Brentford game rather than this Villa game. Are you expecting more changes from the Milan side to this game? Obviously, Reece James is not going to play. So do you think, do we go with a 4 and play Azpilicueta at right back, or do we stick with the 5 and put Ruben there? I guess that's really the only decision to make.
If we did a back, I don't think we can. We can't do a back 3, can we? Because Fofana's come off.
Yeah, but we
have to put Cucurella at left centre back.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, and then we could.
That wouldn't be bad because he looks so good at left centre back.
Yeah,
like the progressive play from him is ridiculous. We could, but I could see us also go 4 at the back instead, because Asby didn't even look that bad when we played him at right back. I could put him up for another run. Midfield, I'm not sure. I'm not sure with Jorginho and coaches. One will be rotated.
But, well, it depends what he does, because if he goes with a 5, you'd shift Ruben to right wing back, wouldn't you? So then none of them are going to be rotated. So
it could be a case like, I think we'll end up seeing both, won't we?
Yeah.
Like, probably one in possession, one out of possession, because we could be able to interchange like that. But let's say 4 at the back for now, and we could put, I'd say maybe Jorginho, Loftus-Cheek, Mount again, and same front 3 as Wolves. Pulisic, Havertz, Mount. Yeah. Actually, Aubameyang's on too good form. I wouldn't even.
I think Gallagher's got an outside chance of starting as well. I wouldn't rule that out either.
How would I forget about Gallagher?
Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out. But mate, last thing, if you're going with a 4, are you doing Silva, Koulibaly, or are you doing Silva and Chalobah? Koulibaly and Chalobah? It's probably got to be Silva and Koulibaly, hasn't it? As much as it would be harsh to drop Chalobah, like that's I don't know. It's a tricky one.
I think I'd be more inclined to play Chalobah in this one, because I'd rather see Silva snuff out Tony for the Brentford game on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Because Villa, like, I'm really not trying to look down on them, but there is no way we could come out of this without a win. No way. They're in too bad form. It's not because they're a bad team or anything. Like, there's good players in that team, and they could still cause us problems. They managed to get a draw against Man City, for example. Like,
they're capable.
with the confidence and the form that we're playing in, the improvement that we've seen in the squad, it would be such a step back if we don't win. Such a
Yeah,
step. I would be so disappointed because we just come off a statement performance. But then even in that mind, like coming off a high of a Milan game with
yeah.
Villa, anything could
I
happen,
mean,
but we should be winning.
yeah. I mean, at some point, like as you say, we can't keep winning every game. There is gonna one of these games.
But we need a run.
Yeah, we do need we need a run, but out of we've got Villa, Brentford, and United in the next 7 days.
That's the thing. United's the one that I'm like, all right, cool. Like
Yeah,
we'll just deal with
but
that as it comes, whatever
yeah,
happens. The other two,
Villa
we've
and
got to
Brentford,
win.
we have to win them. We have to win them. But yeah, look, I think it's clear that we're on a good run, and we shouldn't be struggling against this level of team. And if we want to be finishing top four minimum, we want to be pushing for that second place potentially, which could be up for grabs, seeing as no one's really taking it. Then these are the sort of games we've got to win. But yeah, seems like a good point to round out episode 5. Guys, make sure you smash the likes on this video. And if you've enjoyed what me and Lewis have been saying, feel free to check out and subscribe to our personal channels, both linked in the description. And we will catch you in the next episode.